Dae-ho Kim wiped the sweat from his face as he looked at the strange readings on his scanner. The numbers made no sense. Deep underground, something was giving off more energy than their entire colony used in a month. He had been checking the ground for new places to dig wells, but this was different. This was something nobody expected. The red dust of Kepler 442c stuck to everything. After 15 years on this planet, Dae-ho still hated how it got into his equipment. The Korean colonists had learned to live with many problems on this world, but the dust was the worst. It made simple jobs take twice as long. He pressed the scanner against another rock. The reading jumped even higher. Whatever was down there, it was big and it was powerful. Dae-ho had never seen energy readings like this before. Not even the nuclear reactor back at New Busan Colony showed numbers this high. The wind picked up, bringing another dust storm from the east. Dae-ho packed his equipment quickly. These storms could kill a person if they got caught outside without shelter. He had learned that lesson the hard way during his second year on the planet. As he walked back to his ground vehicle, Dae-ho thought about what he had found. The colony had been struggling for years. Food was hard to grow, water was hard to find. The storms destroyed buildings faster than they could fix them. But maybe, just maybe, this energy source could change everything. The drive back to New Busan took 2 hours. The colony looked small against the endless red landscape. Only 50,000 people lived here, spread across a valley between 2 mountain ranges. From far away, it looked like someone had dropped a few metal boxes on an empty world. Dae-ho drove straight to the science building. He needed to show these readings to Hyejin Park, the colony's chief scientist. If anyone could make sense of this, she could. He found Hyejin in her lab looking tired as always. She had been working on the water recycling system again. Nothing on this planet ever worked right for very long. Everything broke down in the harsh environment. Hyejin, you need to see this, Dae-ho said, holding out his scanner. She looked up from her work, pushing her long black hair away from her eyes. What did you find? Another broken pipe? No, look at these energy readings. Hyejin took the scanner and stared at the display. Her eyes went wide. She looked at the readings again, then at Dae-ho. Where did you get these numbers? Sector 7, about 3 kilometers down. I checked the scanner 5 times. It's not broken. Hyejin sat down heavily in her chair. She had been the colony's top scientist for 8 years. She had seen everything this planet could throw at them, but this was something new. These readings, she said slowly, they show an energy source bigger than anything we've ever found. If this is real, it could power our entire colony for hundreds of years. Dae-ho nodded. That's what I thought. But what could make this much energy? And why is it so deep underground? Before Hyejin could answer, an alarm started ringing throughout the science building. Both of them froze. That alarm meant only one thing: incoming transmission from space. They ran to the communication center where Yuna Song was already working at her station. The young woman looked confused and worried. What is it? Hyejin asked. We're getting a transmission from somewhere in space, Yuna said. But it's not from Earth. The signal is too strong and coming from the wrong direction. Aliens? Dae-ho asked. For 15 years, the colonists had been alone. Earth was too far away to send regular messages. No alien species had ever contacted them. Most people believed they were the only intelligent life in this part of space. Put it on the speakers, Hyejin ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was strange and mechanical. It spoke English, but with an accent unlike anything they had ever heard. Human colony on planet designation, Kepler 442c. This is Admiral Vextar of the Galactic Confederation. We order you to stop all deep excavation activities immediately. This planet is under galactic protection laws. Any attempt to access the underground formations will result in immediate intervention. The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. The 3 colonists stared at each other in silence. Finally, Dae-ho spoke. They know about what I found today. Yuna checked her equipment again. The transmission came from somewhere just outside our solar system. They've been watching us. Hyejin felt cold despite the warm air in the building. For how long? Why didn't they contact us before? Maybe, Dae-ho said quietly, because we never found anything important before today. Meanwhile, at the Colony Administration Building, Tae-wook Lee was dealing with the same transmission. As the colony's leader, he had to decide what to do next. The alien message was clear: stop digging or face the consequences. But Taewook had been leading this colony for 10 years. He had watched people die from storms, disease, and accidents. He had seen children go hungry when crops failed. He had buried friends who died trying to make this harsh world into a home. If there was something underground that could help his people survive, he wasn't going to give up without a fight. Taewook called an emergency meeting of the colony council. Within an hour, the 5 most important leaders in New Busan were sitting around a metal table, discussing the future of their world. The aliens have been watching us for years, Taewook explained. They know exactly what we're doing, but they only warned us when we got close to something important. Maybe we should listen to them, suggested Dr. Hyun-woo Nam, the colony's medical chief. We don't know anything about these aliens. They could have weapons we can't imagine. Or maybe, said Hyejin, they're afraid of what we might find down there. Why else would they care about one small human colony on a planet nobody wants? Daeho spread his scanner readings on the table. Whatever is underground, it's more powerful than anything we've ever seen. If we could tap into this energy source, we could transform this colony. No more power shortages. No more struggling to keep the lights on during storms. The council members studied the readings. The numbers were impressive, but they were also frightening. What kind of civilization could create something that powerful? And why was it buried so deep? There's something else, Yuna added. I've been analyzing the alien transmission. The technology they used is advanced, but not impossible to understand. If they were really so much more powerful than us, why send a warning? Why not just stop us directly? Taewook nodded slowly. That's a good point. Maybe they can't stop us as easily as they want us to believe. As the meeting continued late into the night, none of the colonists knew they were about to discover something that would change not just their world, but the entire galaxy. Deep underground, ancient machines waited in crystal chambers, ready to awaken after millions of years of sleep. The aliens were right to be afraid, but it was already too late to stop what was coming. 6 months had passed since the alien warning, but the colonists of New Busan had not stopped digging. Jinsu Choi led the excavation team deeper into the planet's crust every day. As a former military engineer from Earth, he knew how to get things done even when everything seemed impossible. The drilling equipment worked day and night. Jinsu had modified the machines himself, making them stronger and faster than their original Earth designs. The harsh conditions on Kepler 442c had taught all the colonists to be creative with their tools. How deep are we now? Asked Mi Young Kang, the head of agriculture, as she watched the massive drill disappear into the red ground. 3 kilometers and going deeper, Jinsu replied, wiping oil from his hands. The energy readings are getting stronger every day. Whatever is down there, we're getting close. Mi Young had her own reasons for being interested in the excavation. Her crops had been growing strangely ever since the digging started. The plants were bigger, stronger, and needed less water than before. Something underground was affecting the entire valley. Meanwhile, in the communication center, Yuna Song was discovering things that frightened her. For months, she had been secretly listening to alien transmissions from across the galaxy. The colonists were not supposed to have technology advanced enough to intercept these signals. But Yuna was very good at her job. What she learned changed everything. The aliens were not just watching the human colony. They were afraid of it. In transmission after transmission, she heard alien leaders discussing the human problem on Kepler 442c. The species develops too quickly, said one alien voice in a conversation she recorded 3 weeks ago. In 15 years, they have adapted to conditions that should have killed them. Now they are approaching the architect sites. This cannot be allowed to continue. Yuna had heard the word architect many times in the alien messages, but she did not understand what it meant. Today she was about to find out. She had been working on decoding a long alien transmission when suddenly the pieces came together. Her hands shook as she read the translation on her screen. The planet Kepler 442c had not always been empty. Long ago, it was home to an advanced civilization called the Architects. These beings had developed technology far beyond anything the current galactic powers possessed. But they had grown too powerful too quickly, and the other alien species had united to destroy them. The planet was supposed to stay empty forever. It was meant to be a reminder of what happened when a species advanced too fast and became too dangerous. But somehow, humans had been allowed to colonize it. The current alien powers thought humans were too primitive to be a threat. They had been wrong. Yuna printed the translation and ran to find Heejin Park. The scientist was in her lab, studying strange crystal samples that the excavation team had brought up from deep underground. "Jin, you need to read this," Yuna said, out of breath from running across the colony. Jin read the translation twice before speaking. "The aliens destroyed an entire civilization because they were too advanced?" "That's not the worst part," Yuna said. "I've been tracking their communications. There are ships moving toward our system, a lot of ships." Deep underground, Jinsu's drilling team had finally broken through into a vast cavern. The energy readings on their equipment went crazy as soon as they opened the hole. "Lower the cameras," Jinsu ordered. The images that came back from the deep cavern made everyone stop working. Below them was a city. Not ruins, not broken buildings, but a complete city that looked like it had been built yesterday. Tall towers made of crystal reached up toward the cavern roof. Streets of smooth stone connected buildings that glowed with soft blue light. "How is this possible?" whispered Sang Minno, the colony's negotiator who had come to see the excavation. "This city looks brand new, but it's been buried for thousands of years." Jinsu was already putting on his equipment to go down into the cavern. Only one way to find out. The descent took an hour. When Jinsu and his team reached the bottom, they found themselves walking through streets that had been empty for ages, but showed no signs of damage or decay. The crystal buildings hummed with energy. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly in the darkness. At the center of the city was a massive tower that reached almost to the cavern ceiling. As Jinsu approached it, panels of light appeared in the air around him. The symbols on the panels looked like writing, but not like any human language. Then something amazing happened. The symbols began to change, shifting and moving until they became letters that Jinsu could read. The ancient city was trying to communicate with him. "Welcome, inheritors," the floating text said. "We have been waiting." Back on the surface, Mi Young was making her own discoveries. The strange changes in her crops were getting stronger every day. Plants that should have taken months to grow were ready for harvest in weeks. Vegetables were larger and more nutritious than anything she had grown before. But it was not just the plants. The colonists themselves were changing. People were getting sick less often. Injuries healed faster. Everyone seemed to be thinking more clearly and moving more quickly. "It's like the planet is trying to help us," Mi Young told her assistant as they walked through fields of impossibly green crops. "Everything is growing better since we started digging." She was right, though she did not understand why yet. The crystal network that powered the underground city was designed to enhance all life in the area. The architects had built their technology to work with biological systems, not against them. In the colony's medical center, Dr. Hyunwoo Nam was seeing the changes too. Emergency visits were down by half. People were recovering from injuries much faster than normal. Blood tests showed improvements in everything from immune system function to brain activity. "I don't understand it," he told his nurse. "It's like everyone in the colony is becoming healthier at the same time. This doesn't happen naturally." While the colonists were discovering the wonders of architect technology, the alien fleet was getting closer to their system. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the planet that had haunted his people's nightmares for thousands of years. "How long until we reach the human colony?" he asked his navigation officer. 14 standard days, Admiral." "And the humans? Are they still digging?" "Yes, sir. Our long-range sensors show they have reached the first architect site. Energy readings from the planet are increasing daily." Admiral Vextar closed his eyes. He had hoped it would never come to this. For years, his government had watched the human colony, convinced they would fail like so many other primitive species trying to survive on harsh worlds. But humans were different. They adapted too quickly. They solved problems too creatively. They refused to give up even when giving up was the smart thing to do. Just like the architects had long ago. "Prepare the fleet for planetary intervention," the Admiral ordered. "We cannot allow another architect situation to develop." Back in the underground city, Jinsu was learning the truth about the planet's history. The floating displays around the central tower told the story of the architects in simple pictures and words. They had been explorers and builders, much like humans. They had found this planet and made it their home. Using the natural crystal formations in the planet's crust, they had built a civilization powered by clean, endless energy. But they had grown too powerful too quickly. Other alien species, jealous and afraid, had united to destroy them. The war had lasted only a few months. The architects, despite their advanced technology, had been overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Before they died, the architects had sealed their cities underground and programmed them to wait. Someday, they believed, another species would find this place. A species that was curious enough, brave enough, and stubborn enough to continue where the architects had been forced to stop. "We leave this gift," the final message said, "for those who will not be stopped by fear." Jinsu understood now why the aliens were so afraid. The technology around him was not just advanced, it was revolutionary. With this power, humans could become the dominant species in the galaxy within a single generation. As he prepared to return to the surface with news of his discovery, Jinsu did not know that the alien fleet had already entered their solar system. The final confrontation between human ambition and galactic fear was about to begin. Above him, in the colony of New Busan, 50,000 humans continued their daily lives, unaware that they were about to become the most important people in the galaxy. The alien fleet arrived on a Tuesday morning, appearing in the sky like a dark cloud that covered half the horizon. Hundreds of ships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built, hung motionless above New Busan colony. Tae-wook Lee stood on the observation deck of the administration building, watching the alien vessels through his binoculars. After 15 years of complete isolation, the colonists were no longer alone. The question was whether this was a good thing or a terrible thing. "Sir, we're getting another transmission," reported Yuna Song from the communication center below. "Put it through the speakers," Tae-wook replied, still staring at the massive ships above. Them, the same mechanical voice they had heard 6 months ago, filled the building. "Human colonists of Kepler 442c. This is Admiral Vextar, of the Galactic Confederation. You have ignored our warnings and continued your illegal excavations. We are here to offer you one final choice. Evacuate this planet immediately and relocate to a world we will provide, or face protective intervention." The message was clear: leave or be forced to leave. Tae-wook called an emergency meeting of all the colony's department heads. Within an hour, 20 of New Busan's most important people were gathered in the main conference room, trying to decide the future of their world. "They're giving us a choice," said Dr. Hyunwoo Nam. "That's something, at least. Maybe we should consider their offer." "Consider it?" replied Jinsu Choi, still covered in dust from the underground excavations. "We've spent 15 years building this colony. We've buried friends in this soil. We've made this planet our home. And now some aliens want us to just pack up and leave? But look at what they brought." Dr. Nam pointed toward the window where the alien fleet blocked out the sun. "We can't fight something like that." Sang-min Oh, the colony's negotiator, cleared his throat. "Maybe we don't have to fight them. Maybe we can talk to them, find out what they really want." "I know what they want," said Hye-jin Park, placing a thick folder of papers on the table. "Yuna and I have been analyzing their transmissions for months. They want to stop us from becoming too powerful." She opened the folder and spread out translations of alien messages. "They're not here to help us or protect us. They're here because they're afraid of us." Yoon Seo Kim, Daeho's sister and the colony's security chief, studied the papers. "Afraid of us? We're just farmers and engineers trying to survive on a dead planet. That's exactly what scares them," Hyejin explained. "We've done the impossible. We've survived on a world that should have killed us. We've adapted to conditions that would destroy most species. And now we've found technology that could make us more powerful than any of them." Tae-wook listened to the discussion, but his mind was made up. "Sang-min, contact the alien fleet. Tell them we want to negotiate." 2 hours later, a single alien shuttle landed near the colony's main entrance. Admiral Vextar emerged, followed by 6 other aliens from different species. The admiral was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. His companions were equally strange, some covered in scales, others with fur. One that looked like it was made of living rock, Sang-min. Oh met them at the landing pad, accompanied by Tae-wook Lee and Yoon Seo Kim. This was the first time any human had seen aliens face to face. "I am Admiral Vextar," the tall alien said in perfect English. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with us." "I'm Sang-min Oh, representing New Busan Colony," the negotiator replied. "We'd like to understand why you want us to leave our home." The admiral's large eyes showed what might have been sadness. "Because your home is not what you think it is. This planet was once inhabited by a species called the Architects. They were brilliant, curious, and determined, much like your people. But they became too powerful too quickly, and they threatened the balance of our galaxy. So you killed them, Yuncio said flatly. We had no choice, replied one of the other aliens, a creature covered in blue scales. The architects developed technology that could destroy entire solar systems. They refused to limit their growth or accept guidance from older, wiser civilizations. Admiral Vextar continued. We quarantined this planet to prevent anyone from accessing architect technology. But somehow humans were allowed to colonize here. Our government believed you would fail, as most primitive species do on harsh worlds. But we didn't fail, Taewok said. No, you did not. And now you have found what we hoped would remain buried forever. In 6 months, you have achieved technological advances that most species need decades to accomplish. This cannot continue. Sangmin took a deep breath. What if we agreed to limits? What if we promised to develop slowly and share our discoveries with the galactic community? The rock-like alien spoke for the first time. The architects made the same promises. They kept them for a while. But the nature of your species and theirs is to push boundaries, to refuse limitations, to grow beyond what others think is safe, or is that really so wrong? Hyunseo asked. It is when it threatens billions of other lives, Admiral Vextar replied. The architects nearly destroyed our civilization before we stopped them. We cannot allow that to happen again. Meanwhile, deep underground, Jinsu Choi was learning more about the architect technology. The Crystal City had revealed new secrets every day since his first visit. Power systems that could run forever, medical devices that could cure any disease, transportation methods that could cross the galaxy in hours instead of years. But the most important discovery was the consciousness interface, a system that could temporarily enhance human mental abilities. Jinsu had tried it once for just a few minutes, and the experience had changed him forever. For those few minutes, he had understood mathematics that normally took years to learn. He had seen solutions to engineering problems that had puzzled the colony for months. He had felt what it was like to think with the full potential of a human brain. The architects had built this technology for species like humans, beings who could adapt and grow and refuse to accept limitations. They had known that someday, someone would find their cities and continue their work. Back at the negotiation, Admiral Vextar was explaining the alien ultimatum in more detail. We offer you a choice of 3 worlds, he said, showing holographic images of distant planets. Each one is suitable for human life and far from any architect sites. You will be given technology to help you build new colonies. You will be welcomed into the galactic community as junior members. Junior members? Taewok asked. Your species will be guided by older, more experienced civilizations. Your technological development will be carefully monitored and controlled. You will advance, but slowly and safely. And if we refuse? Hyunseo asked. Admiral Vextar's expression grew sad. Then we will be forced to relocate you by other means. We do not wish to harm your people, but we cannot allow another architect situation to develop. The negotiations continued for hours. The aliens offered everything they thought humans might want. New worlds, advanced technology, membership in galactic civilization. But they would not compromise on the most important point. Humans had to leave Kepler 442c, and they had to accept limits on their development. During a break in the talks, Taewok and his team held a private meeting. What do you think? He asked his advisors. They're terrified, Yunseo said immediately. Look at how they're talking to us. These are representatives of civilizations that control thousands of worlds, and they're negotiating with 50,000 colonists on a backwater planet. That tells you everything you need to know about how dangerous they think we are. Sangmin nodded. The question is, are they right to be afraid of us? Before anyone could answer, Jin Su's voice came over the communication system. He was calling from the underground city. You need to get down here immediately, he said. I've found something that changes everything. The architects didn't just leave us technology, and they left us a message. And it's specifically for humans. As the negotiation team prepared to visit the underground city, none of them realized that Admiral Vextar was also listening to their communications. The alien commander now knew that the humans had not just found architect technology, they were actively using it. On his ship above the planet, Admiral Vextar made the decision that would determine the fate of both species. Prepare the intervention fleet, he ordered. The humans have made their choice. Now we must make ours. Boram Shin was only 24 years old. making her the youngest member of the Colony Council. She had been born on Kepler 442c and knew no other home. When the alien ultimatum came, her response was simple and direct. "We fight," she said during the emergency council meeting that followed the failed negotiations. The older council members stared at her. Dr. Hyun-Woo Nam spoke first. "Boram, they have hundreds of ships. We have mining equipment and farm tools. We have something more important than ships," Boram replied. "We have the architect technology. And we have something they don't understand. We refuse to give up." The colony had split into two groups. Half the people, led by Dr. Nam, wanted to accept the alien offer and relocate to a safer world. The other half, led by Boram and supported by Sujin Lim, the head of colony maintenance, believed they should stay and fight for their home. "This is insane," Dr. Nam argued. "We're talking about fighting a galactic empire with the population of a small city." "The Spartans fought the Persian Empire with 300 soldiers," Boram shot back. "Sometimes numbers don't matter as much as determination." "The Spartans lost," Dr. Nam reminded her. "But they inspired others to win," said Sujin. "Besides, we're not just 300 people with spears. We have architect technology that these aliens fear enough to bring an entire fleet to stop us." Deep underground, Kaite Park, Heejin's younger brother, was working with Jinsu to understand the weapon systems hidden in the Crystal City. What they found amazed and terrified them. The architects had not been peaceful scientists. They had been warriors who understood that knowledge without the ability to defend it was useless. Their cities contained defensive systems that could protect entire planets. "Look at this," Kaite said, pointing to a holographic display showing the planet's surface. "The whole underground crystal network is connected. It's not just a power source, it's a planetary defense grid." Jinsu studied the display. "Can we activate it?" "The system is designed to respond to biological patterns," Kitai explained. "But not just any biology. It needs a species with the right combination of intelligence, adaptability, and determination. The architects built it specifically for beings like us." Above ground, the first signs of alien protective intervention were beginning. Transport ships landed at various points around the colony, disgorging alien soldiers in powered armor. Their weapons looked advanced and deadly. Yoon Seo Kim, the colony's security chief, watched the alien deployment through binoculars. "They're setting up a perimeter around the colony," she reported to Taewook. "Looks like they plan to contain us before moving in." "How many soldiers?" Taewook asked. "Maybe 1,000. All armed with energy weapons and protected by personal shields." It seemed hopeless. The colonists had hunting rifles, construction tools, and determination. The aliens had advanced technology and overwhelming numbers, but in the underground city something was changing. Dong Hyun Cho, the colony's historian, had been studying the architect records for days. What he discovered was the final piece of the puzzle. The architects weren't destroyed by superior firepower, he told Jinsu and Kite. They were destroyed by politics. The galactic powers turned their own people against them through propaganda and fear. He showed them holographic records of the final Architect Galactic War. The architects were winning every battle. Their technology was far superior to anything the galactic powers had. But they couldn't win the war because they were fighting alone against hundreds of worlds. "So what happened?" Jinsu asked. "They made a choice," Donghyun said. "Rather than become the monsters their enemies claimed they were, they chose to die. But first, they hid their knowledge and technology, waiting for a species that might do better." Kitai stared at the historical records. "They were testing us. All of this, the hidden cities, the crystal network, the defensive systems, it's all a test to see if we're worthy of their legacy. And if we are, then we become what they never had the chance to be." The alien ground assault began at dawn. Admiral Vextar's soldiers moved in formation toward the colony. Expecting to face desperate but helpless humans, instead, they met something that should have been impossible. The colonists had spent the night connecting their settlement to the underground crystal network. Using architect technology, they had created defensive systems that shouldn't have existed. When the alien soldiers fired their energy weapons, the shots bounced harmlessly off invisible shields. When they tried to advance, the ground itself seemed to fight against them. Plants grew into barriers overnight. The air became thick and hard to breathe. Electronic systems malfunctioned without explanation. "What's happening down there?" Admiral Vextar demanded from his command ship. "Unknown, sir," His tactical officer reported, "Our weapons are having no effect. The humans appear to have developed defensive technology overnight. That's impossible. Sir, our ground forces are reporting that the humans aren't just defending themselves. They're learning from each attack and adapting their defenses in real time." Admiral Vextar felt cold fear in his chest. This was exactly what had happened during the Architect War. The enemy had adapted faster than anyone thought possible. In the underground city, Kite Park was interfaced with the Architect consciousness system. The technology allowed him to think faster and see patterns that normal human intelligence couldn't grasp. Through the crystal network, he could feel every alien soldier on the planet's surface. He could predict their movements, understand their tactics, and counter their strategies before they were fully formed. But more importantly, he could share this enhanced awareness with other colonists through the network. Sujin Lim found herself knowing exactly where to place defensive barriers to stop alien advances. Yuna Song could predict alien communications before they were sent. Even the farmers like Mi Young Kang could sense where attacks would come and move people to safety. "It's like we're all thinking together," Mi Young said in wonder as she helped evacuate children from the colony school. "I can feel what everyone else knows." The enhanced awareness was temporary. The human brain could only handle the Architect consciousness interface for short periods. But those short periods were enough to turn the tide of battle. By nightfall, the alien ground assault had failed completely. Not a single human had been seriously injured, while the alien forces had been forced to retreat in confusion. Admiral Vextar stared at the reports from his ground commanders. Everything they described was impossible by the standards of normal warfare. "The humans are using Architect technology," he told his staff. "Not just their weapons or defenses, but their consciousness enhancement systems." "What are your orders, sir?" asked his second-in-command. Admiral Vextar closed his eyes. He had hoped it would not come to this. "Prepare for orbital bombardment. If we cannot take the colony intact, we must destroy it before the humans fully master the Architect legacy." "Sir, orbital bombardment will kill everyone on the planet, including the humans we came to protect. Better they die now than become another Architect threat to the galaxy." But even as the alien fleet prepared to destroy the colony from orbit, Kite Park was making one final discovery in the underground city. The Architects had not just left behind technology. They had left behind a choice. The consciousness enhancement system could be made permanent, but only at a cost. To fully inherit the Architect legacy, humanity would have to change. They would become something more than human, but also something less. They would become the next stage of evolution in the galaxy, a species that could think faster, adapt quicker, and refuse to accept any limitations. They would become exactly what the aliens feared most. As Kite prepared to make the choice that would determine humanity's future, he could feel the alien fleet charging their weapons above him. In minutes, everything he had ever known would be destroyed unless he acted. The transformation began with a single thought. Humans would not go quietly into extinction. The crystal network that ran through the planet's crust began to glow with new purpose, and 50,000 colonists felt their minds expand beyond the limits of ordinary human consciousness. The transformation hit the colony like lightning spreading through water. One moment, 50,000 humans were living their normal lives, facing impossible odds against an alien fleet. The next moment, they were something more. Jae Hwan Yu, the colony's chief engineer, felt it first. He had been working on the power grid when every piece of technology in New Busan suddenly made perfect sense to him. He could see how to improve every system, fix every problem, and create devices that shouldn't have been possible with their limited resources. But it wasn't just knowledge. It was understanding at a level that went beyond normal human thinking. Across the colony, similar transformations were happening. Mi Young Kang looked at her crops and instantly understood how to modify their genetic structure to grow in any environment. Yuna Song felt the alien communications networks as clearly as if they were her own thoughts. Dae-ho Kim could sense every mineral deposit on the planet and know exactly how to extract them. The change was temporary. The human brain could only handle this level of enhancement for a limited time. But 72 hours would be enough. In space above the planet, Admiral Vextar's fleet was preparing to fire their orbital bombardment weapons when something impossible happened. Every ship in the fleet suddenly lost power. "Report," the Admiral demanded. Sir, all our systems are shutting down, his tactical officer replied, panic in his voice. Navigation, weapons, life support, everything is going offline. How is that possible? Unknown, sir. It's like something is interfering with our technology. From the planet's surface, what the aliens didn't understand was that the enhanced colonists could now think in ways that let them affect electronic systems across vast distances. The crystal network that powered their consciousness enhancement could also project energy fields that disrupted alien technology. But that was just the beginning. Boram. Shin stood in the colony's command center, her mind connected to every human on the planet through the architect network. She could feel their thoughts, their knowledge, their determination to survive. Phase 1 is complete, she announced to the colony council. Though her voice was somehow different, clearer, more confident, carrying authority that hadn't been there before. All alien ships are disabled. Phase 2 begins now. What's Phase 2? Asked Taewook Lee, struggling to understand what was happening to his people. We show them what humans can really do when we stop accepting limitations. The enhanced colonists worked together like a single organism with 50,000 parts. In 6 hours, they rebuilt their entire settlement using architect technology. Buildings that had taken months to construct were replaced by crystal structures that grew from the ground in minutes. But more importantly, they began creating new technology that combined human creativity with architect knowledge. Jae Hwan designed spacecraft that could cross the galaxy in days instead of years. Kiti developed weapons that could disable entire fleets without killing anyone. Hyejin created medical systems that could cure any disease or injury in minutes. They weren't just using architect technology anymore. They were improving it. Admiral Vextar watched from his powerless flagship as the human colony transformed before his eyes. In less than a day, the small settlement had become a gleaming city of crystal and light. Energy readings from the planet were off the charts. Sir, we're detecting massive technological activity on the surface, reported his science officer. The humans appear to be constructing. I'm not sure what they're constructing. The technology doesn't match anything in our databases. Can we restore power to our ships? Negative, sir. Whatever they're doing is keeping us completely disabled. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Vextar felt truly helpless. His massive fleet, capable of destroying entire worlds, had been rendered useless by a species that 3 days ago had been using primitive mining equipment. On the planet's surface, Sang-min-oh was preparing for the most important negotiation in human history, but he wouldn't be negotiating from a position of weakness this time. Admiral Vextar, he broadcast to the alien fleet, this is Sang-min-oh of New Busan Colony. We'd like to resume our discussions. The response came quickly. What have you done to our ships? We've demonstrated that humans are no longer the primitive species you thought we were. Your fleet is unharmed but disabled. We can restore power to your ships at any time. There was a long pause before Admiral Vextar replied. What do you want? The same thing we wanted 3 days ago. To be left alone to develop in peace. But now we're in a position to enforce that request. Within hours, a new alien shuttle landed at New Busan. Admiral Vextar emerged. But this time he was alone and clearly frightened. Sang-min met him at the landing pad, but the alien leader barely recognized the human negotiator. The transformation had changed more than just human mental abilities. The colonists moved with new confidence, spoke with new authority, and radiated an energy that made even veteran military commanders uncomfortable. Your people have accessed the full architect legacy, Admiral Vextar said without preamble. Yes, and we've improved on it. That's impossible. The architects were the most advanced species in galactic history. Sang-min smiled. They were the most advanced species in galactic history so far. But they made one crucial mistake. They tried to develop their technology while still thinking like their old selves. We've learned to think differently. Admiral Vextar looked around at the transformed colony. The crystal buildings hummed with power. The very air seemed to shimmer with energy. And the humans moved through it all with easy familiarity, as if they had been using this technology for centuries instead of hours. What happens now? The Admiral asked. Now you have a choice, Sang-min replied. You can try to fight us knowing that your weapons can't harm us and your ships can't escape our system. Or you can accept that the galaxy is about to change whether you like it or not. And if we choose to fight? Sang-min's expression grew serious. Admiral, In the past 72 hours, we've developed technology that makes your most advanced weapons look like stone tools. We could destroy your entire fleet without leaving our planet. But we won't because we're not the monsters you think we are. Then what are you? We're what the architects should have been if they had lived long enough to learn wisdom along with power. The negotiations that followed were unlike anything in galactic history. For the first time, a primitive species was dictating terms to the established galactic powers. The enhanced humans offered a simple deal. Humanity would be granted complete autonomy to develop as they chose, but they would also share their medical and agricultural advances with any species that needed help. They would not conquer or threaten other worlds, but they would also not accept limitations on their growth. You're asking us to trust a species that has gained incredible power overnight, Admiral Vextar protested. Yes, Sang-Min replied simply. The same way we're trusting you not to try to destroy us again once we release your ships. And if other species refuse to accept this arrangement, then they'll discover that humans have learned something the architects never did, how to defend themselves without destroying their enemies. The transformation began to fade on the third day, as the colonists' brains could no longer handle the enhanced consciousness. But they had learned enough in those 72 hours to change everything. They kept the knowledge, they kept the technology, and they kept the confidence that came from knowing what humans could accomplish when they refused to accept limitations. Minji Hong was 8 years old when the aliens came to her planet. She had hidden in the colony's shelters during the first alien attack, terrified and confused. But now she stood with her parents on the observation deck, watching the alien fleet prepare to leave their system. Are they going away forever? She asked her mother. No, Minji, her mother replied, holding her daughter's hand. They'll be back someday. But next time they won't come as conquerors. They'll come as neighbors. How do you know? Her mother smiled and pointed up at the stars. Because by then, there will be humans on 100 worlds, all of them growing and learning and refusing to be stopped. The galaxy is going to become a very different place. Minji looked up at the alien ships growing smaller in the sky. Will I get to see other worlds someday? Oh yes, her mother said. You're going to see things and go places that we can't even imagine yet. As the alien fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving the human colony alone once again, Admiral Vextar sent one final message to his government. The human situation has changed. They are no longer a primitive species to be managed. They have become something new. A people who combine the power to reshape the galaxy with the wisdom to use that power responsibly. We can fight them and probably lose, or we can learn to live in a universe where humans are our equals. I recommend we choose the latter. On Kepler 442c, the colonists of New Busan began planning for the future. They would build more cities using architect technology. They would send ships to other worlds carrying human settlers who had learned that limitations existed only in the mind. Most importantly, they would remember the lesson of the past few days, that sometimes the best way to survive is to become something more than what others think you can be. The galaxy would never be the same again.